What is up, everybody? Liam Murphy here to talk some best ball today. Hope everyone's having a good day. As always, an exciting Wednesday. Today, what I mainly want to talk through, and I guess I should introduce myself first, just in case anyone's finding this on YouTube or Twitch. I'm up on Twitch, Liam Murphy Live. My name's Liam. I won Best Ball Mania 2 for $1 million. Usually do best ball streams in the summer. Obviously haven't been doing best ball for a while, but with the season about to become the playoffs, I'm excited, and I'm someone who looks at my best ball teams. I think that's fine. And I'm going to explore some of my best ball teams, starting with some of my Draftkings high-stakes leagues that I'm excited about, and some of my Underdog Best Ball Mania 3 teams. So I played a lot of my action this year in the Draftkings 555, which is a $250,000 to first prize. Let me make sure I pull up these advance rates so I'm citing them correctly. But obviously, the higher the stakes, there's been a lot of discussion about advance rates on Twitter and whatnot. The higher the stakes, the more I care about advancing. And the lower the stakes, I care less about them. And that's for many reasons. And, there's discussions around league winners, which ones you want to have, yada, yada. So I'm going to touch on some of those topics and set the schedule for what I'm going to do. It's 2 of 12 in the regular season. And then week 15, it's 1 of 6. Week 16, it's 1 of 5. And then there is a 11-person final with prizes from $250K all the way down to $17.5K. Okay, so taking a look at some of the DK playoff teams. Now, this is DraftKings scoring, so it's PPR. You also get 100 point bonus for 100 receiving yards, or 100 rushing yards, or 300 passing yards. So this team right here is one of my favorite teams. It's up 70 with 2 weeks to go, so should make the playoffs. Of course, could fall on his face. And why I like this team is it seems very full, other than quarterback, where we need Kirk Cousins to produce, which if Kirk can give me around 20, that's what we're shooting for to advance out of a group of 6 and a group of 5, and then feel real nutted at running back with CMC, Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker, Pierce, Pacheco, and Jeff Wilson. And then the wide receiver is pretty strong with, I would say, 6 strong ones in A.J. Brown, Debo, Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Kristen Watson, and Tony if healthy. And then 2 darts in Osborne and Pierce. And then tight ends feel real good at 2, where it feels like they could match a Kelsey, where you have Schultz, who's really turned it on, Conklin, who should be unleashed by Mike White, and Bellinger, who should be back this week for the Giants and is like their de facto pass catcher 1-ish. Like he was getting around 5 targets. He was getting touchdowns when he was healthy. So he could totally fall in the end zone. These are the actual performances this lineup has done to date. This is just me playing with some numbers. This is what I feel like a floor performance for this team is, getting around 130. Should regularly hit a ceiling of 165, and then just if each position scored 20. And so, 40% of the scores has been around 165. So I feel like that's a realistic ceiling, which is a pretty solid score. And then I'm a psycho. So just for this one lineup, I mapped out the playoff opponents, and the matchups in green are the matchups I like. So I would say Kirk's playoff schedule: Colts, Giants, Packers. Not good, not terrible. Problem with the Packers is you can run on them easier, but he's produced on them. Giants have actually an okay defense, but he should reach around 20 there. And then obviously, like, I have some leverage spots where I would say like Osborne, pretty good leverage on Justin Jefferson, although they can both hit. And I like the matchups for many of these players where, like, I got Pacheco. I would say Josh Jacobs, just talking about, and hey, if you guys are hearing me out there in the universe, let me know. I want to talk with the viewers too. But someone like Josh Jacobs, let's talk about, where I would say he has a rough playoff schedule in Patriots, Steelers, Niners. I like the matchup against the Steelers just because that could be a bad team. Yeah, okay, they're okay against the run. But, totally could see Jacobs going off against the Steelers. Kenny Pickett could throw picks. Um, Obviously, he can get there against the Patriots and Niners. I'm not that impressed with the Patriots D, but, they seem to be geared to shut down bad teams, which maybe the Raiders are. But anyways, someone like a Jacobs is great for getting to the playoffs. But then when you get to the playoffs, if he is Daniel, if he is, really high owned, then he's not really helping you if all the other teams in your group have him. So some of the players I'm excited to advance that should be lower owned on this team is Debo. Debo's advance rate's got to be really low, where I drafted a lot of Debo. Obviously, he's not been scoring a ton of regular season points, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that Debo can't go off for 30 each week in the playoffs. I also have a unplanned stack in CMC and Debo, which running back wide receiver stacks on DraftKings especially is something I try to do quite often. And if CMC's hurt, it should help Debo, where he's now their de facto running back, whatever. Hollywood Brown is another guy I'm really excited to advance, and he's actually on a ton of my teams because I took a stand on DraftKings where I pretty much always took Hollywood round 4 instead of Juju. And that seems to be right so far. Obviously, Hollywood was hurt for 5 weeks in a row, and now has a bye. But I'm excited, especially with his Week 17 matchup against the Falcons, and then the Bucs are a team you can beat. And then the Broncos is like not a great matchup, but against the Raiders or against the Panthers, it seems like their defense maybe quit. So maybe it is going to be a good matchup now. And so talking through last year and my team that won, I think I can just show this in the results. Let me just pull up the team. Here we go. Winning 1 mil. When you check this on the app, by the way, it just says winning 1M. It's pretty cool. So this is my team that won the $1 million in Best Ball Mania 2. And you could see the team, honestly, not the most special team in the world. And the players that were probably high advance rate players, Josh Allen, okay, but it's a quarterback, so it doesn't really matter. It's rare that quarterbacks are separating. And then Jonathan Taylor was like the high advance rate running back I had. Aaron Jones, very low owned. Jeff Wilson, very low owned. Rashad Penny, decently owned because he did well in the playoffs, but did nothing in the regular season. Damian Harris, decently owned. And then, my huge leverage point was Chase, where, I got Chase's 50 points. And the reason why he was so low owned is because T. Higgins did well the week before, week 16 in the playoffs. And what you're going to find out if you're doing best ball for the first time, or if you haven't really paid attention in these playoff groups, is the ownership in the playoff groups is really going to condense, where MBS and Gabriel Davis are good examples where they were low owned. Like you see this guy has Gabe Davis on his team, and I have MBS. Gabe Davis and MBS both had big week 15s, I think, or maybe week 6, big week 15s. And so their ownership went from 8% to all of a sudden 40%, because you pretty much needed those players to advance in the next group. So it's pretty fascinating how ownership condenses. If you have like a Travis Kelce, for example, even if Travis Kelce duds out in the playoffs, which, probably won't happen, but if he did, he'd still be pretty well represented in the finals, just because he's so high advance rate in the regular season. And we saw that with Cup and Mark Andrews. Now, those aren't perfect because Cup and Andrews were both over 50%. You can see many of these teams are going to have them. And the reason is because they had great regular seasons and they balled out in the playoffs. So, like, obviously advancing a player that's high advance rate, let's say Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelce, Diggs, maybe, Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker. Obviously, these players can still go off for a lot of points, but ideally, you want to be sneaking in leverage points into the finals. Another huge leverage point that I had last year in the finals was Noah Fant and Mike Gesicki. Both of these guys were like, and I can't perfectly hear you. Noah Fant, I'll try to find my screen. Anyways, Noah Fant had 2 touchdowns week 17. Did I predict Noah Fant 2 touchdowns? No, but it's a reason that I did a lot more 3 tight end teams, because tight end is a huge leverage spot naturally, where it's pretty much like who falls into the end zone in half-point PPR, who's going to be good. And so let's say Travis Kelce doesn't have a great week 17, and whoever your tight end, Noah Fant, Njoku, Dawson Knox, Everett, take your pick, Higbee. If that guy can fall in the end zone twice, he's going to be like 5% or less owned. I think Fant was like 3%. Gesicki was like 5%. And when we're talking this year for Best Ball Mania 3, the final group is 460 people. It was about 160 or something when I won. You want these leverage points. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to first walk through some of my DraftKings 555 teams. And then definitely, yeah, guys, feel free to ask questions. Do I think Cup will come back this year? I do, yes. Now, in the 555, I did about 40 teams. I'm advancing currently about 8 with another 4 who are realistically in the hunt. 37 out, 14 out, 20 out, and 2 points out currently of advancing. And obviously I could lose some of my ones that are advancing. And, I'm not like, there are a couple teams that are like 70 points out, 80 points out. Those teams could make it. It's not inconceivable that you have a team that scores 200 and your competitor scores like sub 100, but most likely not going to make those ones. So anyways, going to take a look at some of these high stakes teams before jumping into and looking at my underdog teams. And so, yeah, obviously mainly focusing on the 555 as far as what teams I've looked at, because I put a lot of action there. And, the dream is live, where, again, the advance rates are 2 out of 12 advance to the playoffs, and then you just need to beat a group of 6, a group of 5, and then you're in the finals live for $250K. Which this team, which I would say, like, as far as like star skill position players, I would say every running back is star-ish, at like expecting at least 15. Maybe Pierce role by then is less, who knows, but like Pacheco's trending up, Jeff Wilson is trending up, Ken Walker's a beast, Jacobs is good but maybe not healthy, CMC is great but maybe not healthy, and will be really low owned. Sneaking a CMC into the playoffs is hard to do when he's next to Justin Jefferson. He's next to Cup, probably have a higher advance rate. Got the sex spots. Thanks, 69 Biz. The wide receiver so I would say like 6 stars-ish. Not stars with Pacheco and Wilson and I guess Pierce, but like 3 stud running backs and then 3 solid ones. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 star wide receivers plus 2 really promising ones. If like Tony's healthy, I'd put him in the star bucket. And Watson, like, could be a star, but we need to see who's playing quarterback there. And, he's got to come back down to earth a little bit. He can't score a touchdown every catch. Osborne and Pierce, decidedly not stars, just darts. And, you want those darts on every team. Again, these guys are going to be 0% owned in my playoff group, so they can help you advance. And then Schultz, I would say, is a star tight end. Conklin and Bellinger are serviceable. So what is that? Like 3 stars, 4-star wide receivers. So just a bunch of star power. Obviously, punted off quarterback. Don't think I'm going to get Mills or Mayfield. Might get Davis Mills back. Who knows? The color coordinates is like red is like out for season pretty much. Yellow is injured, might come back. And that's a wide bucket. And then like purple is like healthy, but like almost unusable. That's fun. I have a team with no quarterback points in Underdog that I don't think is going to advance. Was it's like Wentz and a bunch of idiots. So this team is up 100 points, so probably going to make it. Feel good about this one. It has Kyler, which is going to be pretty low owned. I kind of think this one is like the ideal 0 running back team. Instead of Penny, if Penny could have been Josh Jacobs, okay, now it's the nuts, but he didn't. So, and you notice I took Ken Walker and Penny in this one. I don't know if I did that on purpose. I would do that sometimes, but it could have been a misclick even here. So pretty lucky. And then something I did in the draft season, which, I think it's important to take lessons from the draft season, but like when Penny was cheaper than Ken Walker, I took Penny. And then when Penny became more expensive than Walker, I was not chasing Penny up the board. I took Walker. And that will work a lot of times for you. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work. For example, I took Ramondre when he was cheap. I stopped taking Ramondre when he got really expensive. So that was one I wish I chased him up the board. And you could say that a player chasing up the board might be a sign to target them. So anyways, it has Stevenson, Walker, Jamal Williams, who's just been a star, like just a very unique role where he just has like all this goal line usage. Dontre Hilliard and James Cook. Yeah. And thanks for saying this, Bill Dobes. I wanted to say that too. Like my advance rates, first of all, they're not amazing in the high stakes. They're like on par, which is it's good not to be under. In Best Ball Mania 3, I think I'm like 20 out of 150. We'll take a look, which is 25 out of 150 is mathematically advancing. I had a ton of Trey Lance. I had almost no Josh Jacobs. I had very little Ken Walker on Underdog. So to be advancing 20 teams without these league winners is honestly very exciting because it means the whole team is good. It means it could survive without these league winners, and it means the players on your team are low owned. It's why also, if you have a team on the top 500 leaderboard on Underdog, I would say it's less likely one of those teams will win the whole contest just because you're going to be having a lot of player overlap with other teams. You're going to take each other out. You're not sneaking in a low-owned Mike Williams. You're not sneaking in a low-owned Hollywood. And it's no guarantee these low-owned guys have good playoff weeks, but you're the only one who benefits if they do, as opposed to 70% of the field who has Jacobs or whatever it is going to be. And so I don't think I think I drafted good structure, obviously targeted a lot of high, elite wide receivers. This wide receiver group on this team, super fun. Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Gabe Davis, my only Gabe Davis high stakes team that's going to advance, which I had a bunch. Hollywood, again, Metcalf, who's low key killing it. And Geno. Geno is a guy who on DK I drafted a lot of. Didn't get as much on Underdog. And it was because, I didn't see this coming from Geno. But when I punted quarterback, he's a guy I took on DK quite a bit just because like everyone else was gone. And I was like, okay, at least he's starting the beginning of the year. He correlates with Metcalf. And then, I got lucky and the field was wrong and Geno was better than people think. And he's also going to be like the percent he was drafted. I bet he was not drafted in well over 75% of drafts, maybe 85% of drafts. So I have a couple Geno teams, I think 3 out of the 12 that might make the playoffs here, which, hey, if I get all 12, that's ideal. If I get 10, that's awesome. If I get 8 or 7, okay. And so real excited for a Geno team. And then, this has Burks, Landry. The tight ends, again, Bellinger, another guy I have a lot of, and Conklin. And it's like really like an Everett. I don't think McBride's going to happen with everyone healthy, but he could. This next team is surely going to make the playoffs. It's up 170. And you can see here, I'm kind of labeling the structure of these DK teams. A lot of my teams had Hall. Brees Hall was a guy I had a ton of in the DraftKings high stakes. And when you're doing something like a main event, a DK high stakes, if you only do a couple of them, you're going to come down to the mercy of what draft order you got, which in the DK high stakes, like I ran real cold on like top end draft picks. So like less Cup, less Chase, less Jefferson. Had more tail end ones, so I had more Diggs, more Kelsey. And so this team is fun. It's essentially like a Barkley hero, and you're just praying you can get points from Hunt, McKinnon. Warren's now back, and I'm excited to have him. He's not going to be high owned. And Herbert, who should be coming back soon. The wide receiver group is really punted off, but, you know, some solid hits here with DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Boyd, Gallup, Zay Jones, Jameson Williams. I'm thrilled to have a Jameson Williams teams in the playoff. I'm still a believer. If you have Jameson Williams, you're pretty much hoping that he's not going to play this week, I don't think. You want him to play next week, week 14, before the playoff starts. And you want him to, get his, 40% of snaps or whatever he's going to play that game. Like, I assume he's going to come back, not play that much, and then maybe that next week, maybe he gets ramped up. And so I'm really hoping he plays at least by week 15. And then him and Dotson, especially if Wentz gets back in there, can be low-owned. Oh, this is a different thing here. Can be low-owned hammers. This is just me looking at the difference between Juju and Hollywood because, again, I want Hollywood over Juju. And then the tight end, if I could do it again, do I wish I had taken 2 tight ends with this team, especially with having Kelsey and Njoku? Yes, but it also feels good to have Amari and Njoku with Watson back, which I didn't draft any Watson other than a couple spots I auto-drafted him in. Exactly, man. That's what, I've heard some people say they're not thrilled for Jameson Williams. I think he has the skill set of like a Jalen Waddle-ish or whatever, or maybe more go routes than Waddle, but the guy was a top 5 pick. I'm real excited if he can get on the field. And you just got to hope that the Lions are technically in the hunt, and you just got to hope that they don't shut them down. This next team up 100, almost assuredly making it. It goes through Hurts, which, hey, if you got to go through one quarterback, Hurts is a pretty good quarterback to go through. My running backs suck on this team. So it's pretty much like a Jacobs anchor with you're praying you get points from Robinson. Maybe James Cook can turn it on. Maybe Warren can turn it on with the Najee injury. Jordan Mason. Hey, CMC's banged up. I think he's just a special teamer. Burkhead is almost assuredly a 0. And then Brees Hall, obviously out for the year. But the wide receivers, you got Diggs, you got A.J. Brown, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Hollywood. So you got the 2 Cardinals guys. You got DJ Moore as wide receiver 5. You got Gallup. You got Sky, who is turning it on late. And you got Dubs, who's practicing and going to be back on the field this week, I think. And then tight end, real solid with Njoku, Everett, and Logan Thomas. I want to call him solid, but he's on the field. So feel good about this one. If, you need Jacobs to at least give you 15. You need one of these guys to give you 10-ish. And then you need your wide receivers to fill your flex and go for 120 combined or something, which, hey, if you need 120 points from your wide receivers, certainly worse groups of wideouts out there. This next team I really like. It's really solid and healthy, I think, but it's only up 3 points. And I tried to look up if Mike Williams practiced today. I couldn't find anything. So I know he re-banged up his high ankle sprain. So I hope he's back at least soon, but I'm not sure. And so this team is stacked at quarterback, whereas Herbert, Mariota, and then I auto-drafted Watson on this team. You can tell I auto drafted because I don't have a single Browns player to stack him with. So like if I had planned to take him, I would have. The only Browns player is Dearness Johnson on the Browns, who to date is like a 0. And then running back, real strong too, where it's got Eckler and Saquon, and then the promising White and Pacheco rookie duo, who both could be their running back ones going forward. Pacheco almost certainly, and then White will at least be in the mix if Fournette's back. Wide receiver group, pretty strong now that Mike Williams and Hollywood are back. Again, this team's only up 3 with 2 weeks left to advance, so Hollywood's on bye. So it's pretty much, does Mike Williams play? I don't know. And then what can I get out of the Olave, Garrett Wilson, Thielen, Zay Jones mix, which last week killed it for me. It's pretty much been these 4 wide receivers for me all year, because Hollywood and Mike Williams have been out a bunch of weeks. So like if I can keep pace this week and then get both these guys back next week and like have both explode, then I can make it. And then tight end feel real solid about. Like obviously the Rams are a mess, but hey, Higbee's one of the only guys out there. And then Knox, the touchdowns are going to come. Like he will have a big week in the playoffs, I assume. Yeah, I mean, Dearness is a guy. You're going to see other guys like Eno Benjamin also on this team who I labeled purple because he's been inactive the past 2 weeks. And I mean, Eno was a big guy to get me this far, to keep me in the hunt. I still have hopes that, like Eno, I think has a ceiling case if Burkhead's out, he's on the field, and if Pierce gets injured. So like, I don't know. You just want Benjamin like taking the pass game role. And he can still do it. But if he's going to be inactive, then okay, he's a 0. Another team here, this one's up 73. So likely going to make it, but not a lock. It's a 2-7-9-2. It's got Prescott and Cousins, so feeling good at quarterback. Schultz and Njoku at tight end, which both have bye week of week 9. I did that on purpose. I did not care that they have overlapping bye weeks. Obviously, it does not matter for advancing at the tight end position. So real 2 strong tight end darts. And then at running back, it's got Aaron Jones, Ken Walker, Antonio Gibson, Alexander Madison, and Hilliard. So, like 2 stars-ish, like Jones is fringe and Walker. And then Gibson is like hit or miss, but like, around 10 a game. Madison is total just, contingency value. Hilliard, probably contingency value too, but he's given a couple spike weeks. Rojo, I labeled purple, but might. Like, I know that the Chiefs just signed Melvin Gordon. And so, maybe Melvin Gordon's going to play and Rojo's back to inactive. Or maybe they cut Rojo with Melvin Gordon deciding. Or maybe Rojo is better than Melvin Gordon and he gets to keep playing and, with CH on IR. And then obviously Breece Hall again got me here, but it's a bummer not to have him. That injury really killed me. So did the Mike Williams and Hollywood ones. Had a ton of those guys, but I'm now advancing some of these guys. So wide receiver stacked. It's got Justin Jefferson. It's got AJ Brown. It's got Hollywood Brown. It's got Elijah Moore. It's got Zay Jones. It's got Curtis Samuel. It's got another Jameson Williams team and Alec Pierce and Randall Cobb. So obviously 2 high-end stars. Hollywood probably going to be a star. I think, especially with Ertz out, he's going to be really solid. And then Elijah Moore going to be really low owned. Jameson Williams low owned, and Cobb almost non-existent. And then two great tight ends. So feel good about this one. Only really down Hall and Hilliard. And so if it can get, basically it goes through Jones, Walker, Gibson. Oh, certainly. I'm, but some people, Boradas asks, are there any best ballers who hit on all their guys and are going to advance a ton of lineups? For sure. I mean, like, I draft a narrow pool. Some people spread out their stuff. And if your narrow pool was like Josh Jacobs every team, Ken Walker every team. Well, then you're advancing a killer rate. But again, if all your teams have Josh Jacobs, all your teams have Ken Walker, you're not getting in these like exciting players like Hollywood, Mike Williams, likely. Like these are the low-owned guys who can put up big performances and are not that high-owned. This next team is a Hurts Lamar team, so pretty fun. It's up 55, probably going to make it, but certainly could get chased down. And so two elite quarterbacks. Lamar's probably going to be a little bit lower owned too. He's quarterback like 5 on the year, but other than like the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of the season, he's been kind of disappointing. Walker, Hunt, it's again like a Walker anchor team where it's got Walker, and then we need running back points between Hunt, Hilliard, and Abdullah. And then Mitchell, like just as I get Mitchell back, he's out. I drafted a lot of Mitchell just because I thought he was going to have a good year being, and I think he would have if he was healthy. And that's another thing to remember too, is that people are so resource oriented where they're like, I'm advancing X percent, or I'm doing this, and therefore I'm smart, or therefore I did this right or this wrong. And it's like, keep in mind who got injured. Did you draft those players? There's so much craziness that, one season definitely you can't take away anything from. And don't fool yourself or lie to yourself. And don't be too down on yourself. Like if you drafted a lot of Breece Hall, that was clearly a good process, unlucky result. If you drafted a lot of, and I think like I drafted a lot of Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas was killing it when healthy. Now, okay, he got injured again. He was injury prone, so it's a little bit different. But like, let's take a bad process, bad result is different than like good process, bad result. So like bad process, bad result would be probably a player like Cam Akers. Like he was expensive. He's coming off an Achilles tear. You're probably, he's drawn thin to like bury you in that draft round. And then he does nothing. Like that one was like pretty predictable. That's a great stand. I mean, Amon-Ra won me $1 million last year. So of course I drafted a lot of him. Yeah, Olave was good process. And I would say just drafting rookie wide receivers is a good process. It was crazy to me that people on Twitter were getting all up in arms about Christian Watson, thinking Christian Watson was a bad draft pick when his fucking competition was like Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, who, by the way, Sammy Watkins, if he's not 265 pounds, he's pushing it up there. All right. That guy is a wide load. Christian Watson, one of the most athletic freaks with a quarterback who can throw the deep bomb. It really didn't make any sense to me why he was not being drafted a lot. And he's all over my 5-5-5 teams. I just kept on drafting him. And like towards the end, I was like, okay, I guess I'll take a walk-in share in case I'm wrong. Yeah, and I think you should be excited. Like Burks, I have some Burks teams too. I'm not as excited for Burks, but he could do it. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, you're stoked about. And so anyways, going through the rest of these teams, this team is a cup team, which I'm excited about if I can get Cup to the playoffs, because I think he will come back. But I mean, dude, the Rams are a fucking mess. Like, we don't even know if Matt Stafford's going to be back. But the wide receiver group is really strong if he does get back, where it's got AJ Brown, it's got Chris Olave, Juju. I think is going to be solid down the stretch. Christian Watson, Gallup, Landry, and then Gage. I just think Gage has been injured all year. Like, I think he would have been okay. But again, the Bucs are not that good. And then solid at tight end, where it's got Andrews, Knox, and Logan Thomas. My last team that is for sure in, I would guess this team's going to drop out of the playoffs because it's only up 9 on second place. And the running back room is just kind of brutal, where it's got CPAT and Michael Carter, who might not play this week. Herbert, who I don't think is back until week 15. Henderson, who I don't know if he's going to be active. And James Robinson, who I don't know if he's going to be active. So it might just be CPAT. Quarterback room we feel good about. And I did Malik Willis on this team because because I thought Mariota had a solid chance to be benched later in the year. and I might be able to double dip where like maybe he doesn't get benched, and so don't take his backup, take the backup of a player who I thought might have a lot of upside in Malik Willis. Clearly, that's wrong because he just can't pass the ball in the NFL, from what we've seen. Or maybe it's the coaching staff afraid to unleash him, but yeah, the upside's not quite there for Willis like I envisioned. Wide receiver group is nutted, though. It's got Jefferson, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Hollywood on bye, Christian Kirk as a wide receiver 5, Deontay Johnson as a wide receiver 6, Elijah Moore as your wide receiver 7, and then Conklin, Hooper, and Ingram just find a tight end. So this team could make it if like CPAC goes for 20. I don't even need running back 2 points, and then I get like 120 from my wide receiver group. The next 4 teams are in a battle. So this one is 2 points out. It's technically only a 2 running back team. This is a 2-4-12-2 team I did. The wide receivers are brutal. It's Olave, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson, Drake London, Jarvis Landry, David Bell, who with Watson back might be better, Paris Campbell, Dotson, Bourne, who's been playing at least, Hamler, who's hurt, Dubs, who's going to be back this week, Shakir, who still has contingent upside, but, not been great. Now, the good news is the 2 running backs are McCaffrey and Chubb, so been getting solid running back points. And J.K. Dobbins is back at practice. And then, unfortunately, Breece Hall again. And then, solid at quarterback and tight end, where this team, I think, will make it. If McCaffrey doesn't play this week or next week, it's probably dead. Yeah, he's back at practice, but I don't think he's going to play yet, but and if he does play, like the idea of drafting Dobbins with Lamar and Andrews wasn't that like Lamar would throw touchdowns to Dobbins. It was kind of like the week Lamar doesn't do well, hopefully it's because Dobbins does well, and then I can just use Rodgers points, who also might not play. So this team, not my strongest team, but I do want to do more 2-4-12-2 teams on DK next year. Did quite a bit last year, only did like 1 or 2 this year. This next team is really strong, I think. It's a 2-8-7-3. It's 20 points out of the playoffs, which is easy to chase down, and it's getting healthier. So it's got Prescott and Carr, so 2 solid quarterbacks. It's a 0 running back team, and I would say Singletary and Pacheco, 2 really solid 0 running back targets. Michael Carter, if healthy, is solid. Brian Robinson, solid. Hilliard, again, he's got upside. And then Hines, pretty much a no-go right now. And then Rojo and Benjamin, maybe they help, maybe they don't. Wide receiver, though, got Lamb, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams if he's back, DeAndre Hopkins, Metcalf, Sutton, and then Mooney out for the year. And then tight end solid at Hurst, Conklin, Gesicki. So I hope this one can chase it down and get in. And these last 2 teams, before I jump over to Underdog and take a look at the players that are overlapping, is this one I think is going to have a hard time making it. It's only 14 out. It's beast at wide receiver, but its 3 running backs currently are Pollard, Rashad White, and A.J. Dillon. So, hey, if these guys can put together 2 weeks and produce in the playoffs, it's got a chance. But the wide receivers are beasts: Diggs, Lamb, Mike Williams, Christian Watson, Burks, Chark, Chris Samuel, Galladay, Gage. And then a 2 tight end team pretty much with Bellinger, who is I think is going to play, which is big for a lot of my teams. Again, really low-owned guy. But Conklin and Bellinger, 2 low-owned guys. So pretty much comes down to like what do the wide receivers do on this team? And then this last team, it's 37 points out, so a bigger gap. But if it can make it, it's one of the earlier teams I drafted. It's pretty fun. It's got Sanders, Patterson, Michael Carter, McKinnon, Hilliard, Hines, and Tyrion Davis-Price, who might be the running back 1 this week. I don't know. And it's got Diggs, Hollywood, and DJ Moore on bye. So this week it's going to be Diggs, Sky Moore, Nico, Quez Watkins, and Pierce. So this is the week where I can't afford to, like, let's just 37 out become like 50 out. I need it to be like 37 out to like 30 out or 20 out. And then with Hollywood and DJ Moore back, maybe we have a chance next week. Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I said earlier in the program. He's low key like their pass catcher 1. This was just me taking a look at the breakdown of these teams and how many times I did it out of the 12 teams. So 3 of them were 3-6-8-3s. 3-6-8-3s was something I put more of an emphasis on this year. Just rather than 3-5-9-3s, which my first year playing best ball, I think I did more 3-5-9-3s. And when you're punting off the running back, you just want more running backs. 2-7-9-2s and 2-7-8-3s also make up teams that are represented more than once, and the rest are ones. And so 25% of my teams are 2 tight end teams, 75% are 3, 40% are 7+ running backs. The other 40% are 6 running backs. 3+ quarterbacks on 40%, around 60% have 2. 9+ wide receivers on 40%, and 8 or under on 60%. And then my most common players on these playoff teams is 3 of the 12 or 25% of Hurts. Same with Geno. Really excited about Geno again. He's been a real solid producer. Going to be really low owned. Lamar's on 2 of the 12. Hilliard's on 5 of my 12 teams. Drafted a lot of Hilliard. He's low owned. Hopefully, if Derrick Henry goes down, then he can really smash. Hopefully Derrick Henry goes down. And then Michael Carter is on 3 of the teams and Pacheco on 3, which both, trending up. I would say, with Mike White out there throwing as much as they did, I'm excited for Carter if he gets back on the field. Hollywood is on 7 out of the 12 teams I'm advancing. So I'm really excited about Hollywood because, again, I don't think he's going to be a high advance rate player. I don't know if he's going to be a low advance rate player either. But, having Hollywood, I chose him because of his playoff schedule. Because the Cardinals' playoff schedule is they got Falcons week 17, they got the Bucks, and they got the Broncos. So, and then AJ Brown's on 5 of my advancing teams. Feel great about that. Healthy elite wide receiver. Should have some big spikes down the stretch, especially with Goddard out. And maybe, with the Eagles, once they clinch the 1 seed, maybe they practice their passing game a little bit more. Christian Watson on 4 of the 12. Feel good about that, obviously. He'll probably be a decently high advance rate player. And then Diggs is on 3 of the teams. Lamb's on 3. Mike Williams is on 3. Excited about the Mike Williams. Can have big weeks in the playoffs at really low ownership. Olave, obviously a solid pick. DJ Moore, who I thought I really faded elsewhere. I don't know why I took so much on DK. I guess I just figured he's better on PPR. But, hey, with Darnold out there, he is a better pick. And then my tight end overlap is a lot of Conklin, a lot have Bellinger, which Conklin is a guy I just thought was good. He had a good year last year. I thought he was a good pick. I took him over Uzama. And the field pretty much left Conklin most drafts. So he's going to be low owned in the playoffs just because he's low drafted. Bellinger, same with him, really low drafted. So hopefully he gets back with the Giants in the playoffs and needing pass catcher help, especially with Wan'Dale Robinson on IR again. And then Knox is on teams. Knox is a guy I drafted on a shitload of teams. Obviously, that hurts a little bit because it comes at expense of those round 10 running backs. Those are your Ken Walkers. Those are your Miles Sanders. But, I took him for a reason. He's attached to Josh Allen. He's a high touchdown upside guy. If there's a guy who can have 2 touchdowns in playoff weeks, why can't it be Knox, And then Andrews, obviously, Andrews has had, he started off really hot, and now he's been so-so. And, the Ravens' passing attack's been a little brutal without Rashad Bateman, but I'm excited to have Andrews, especially because most of the elite tight end teams will be Kelsey teams, not Andrews teams. And then Everett attached to Herbert, So those are the DK 555 teams. I also have some of the 2K teams, which might make the playoffs. Those are in a thick race. Let's take a look at my underdog teams. Or let me see if there's any questions here. Bunch of Burke and Jameson from Eddie. Nice. Yeah, but I think he was also baked up. So, and then, I think Rodgers was probably stubborn and then realized, like, Jesus Christ, I can't keep rolling with whoever. Um, Guys, a reminder, I'm on, hey, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back for the playoff rounds of Best Ball on Underdog. Can't wait for those to start. I'll be drafting. And then take a look at my Twitch, which is Liam Murphy Live right there. Sheeb saying Conk best 18th round tight end 2 years in a row. Well, I want to say it was the best tight end last year because that distinction would go to Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox, and even Gronk was late. But this year, he's someone I took a lot, Conklin. I took a ton of him in like the big board or whatever because I thought he's a good player in Minnesota, and he's like, he's like Dalton Schultz light, where he gets a lot of usage at least. And then me and the field were scared off because he went to A, the Jets, and B, they signed Uzama too, who was solid with the Bengals last year. So like the question was like who it was going to be. And then I think like a practice report or whatever came out that Conklin was the ones according to the beat writers, and like that's all I needed. Like that confirms my bias already. I like Conklin, and so I do have an Uzama team or two, but um, that was all I needed to see. So drafted did not do as much high stake action on Underdog compared to DK. I just kind of like the DK format better for the high stakes. So let's take a look at the Best Ball Mania 3 teams. You can see I named most of my teams. I did a thread on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Cheslium, kind of going over my advance rates of my stream teams after seeing the tweet that Herzig put out about his stream teams. My stream teams are actually performing. My stream teams are actually performing better than I'm doing. Let's see. Currently, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 out of 150 advancing, which is 13%. So below the field. But again, because my teams don't really have a lot of Josh Jacobs, they don't have a lot of Ken Walker. The reason, and before I finish that thought, I wanted to say your advance rates will also determine like when you drafted on a site. So, for example, if I saved a lot of my late drafts for Underdog, which I didn't, I would be advancing a lot more on Underdog because, again, I talked about the Ken Walker and Rashad Penny flipping. I decided, hey, I'm going to save my later drafts for DraftKings, both because A, I care less about the lower stakes $5 draft on DraftKings, and B, I think there's an advantage to drafting late and early, and I just decided I'll take whatever. I'll take the late advantage on DraftKings, which should have softer fields anyways, if that's a stream of conscious. So, but because of that, I don't have a lot of Ken Walker on Underdog, but I do have him on DraftKings because, again, Ken Walker flipped Rashad Penny at one point, and I wasn't stubborn and just being like, well, I'm a Penny guy. I was like, okay, now I'll take Walker. But that never happened to me on Underdog, other than I saved a couple teams late. So what's nice about Underdog, if you don't know, is they list these teams in order that you drafted them. So my first team I drafted, you can see I named it Strong Everywhere. And just from like spot checking some of my groups, something I've noticed is, and it just makes all the sense on a half point PPR site like Underdog, a lot of teams with 2 weeks to go have no shot of catching third or second place. Like, I would say this team has a shot. It's down 40 with 2 weeks to go, but it's just harder on Underdog because a Josh Jacobs or whatever occurs. If you don't have that guy, you're not making up the volume in PPR catches. So like the league, whoever has the spike weeks, if one team has a couple spike weeks, then you're just not catching them. Like this team, is going to make the playoffs. It's not going to be caught with 80 with 2 weeks to go. So let's take a look at the team. It's a Hurts Goff team. It's got Jacobs. It's got McCaffrey. It's got Nick Chubb. So Jacobs going to be high owned, but that allow the other thing about having these league winners is if you don't have them stacked, so if you don't have Josh Jacobs with Jeff Jefferson, with Ken Walker, with Kelsey, then the league winners can allow you to advance lower own advance rate guys, which in this case, I would say like McCaffrey's not going to be low advance rate, but he's not going to be high advance rate. And he's being advanced because I have Chubbs and Jacobs. Same thing with Cook and Hines, which, 2 Bills running backs, they're attached to Buffalo. Could they score 2 touchdowns in the game? Absolutely. Wide receiver group, got some Marquise, not the highest end wide receiver group in the world. Quez Watkins, a fun piece I added to a lot of my Hurt stacks. Tight end, it's a Knox and Tunyon team. Feel good about that. Hey man, this goes to you, Wet Like 'em Book, or anyone. You win BBM 3, we got to collab. We got to keep that tradition going. You, me, Justin, we'll get a collab going, or just $1 million and up club. Sorry, Justin. No, I'm kidding. Definitely got to have the winner on. If it's not me, I decided actually yesterday. I'm glad you brought this up. I decided yesterday I would like to go back to back, and I'm going to. So, my goal going into the year was to win 6 figures playing best ball again. So I won the 250K. That would happen. That would be fucking awesome. But hey, I think I'm just going to take down the 2 mil. What a fucking Disney story that would be. You got to be thinking out there. If it's not you, you got to be rooting for me. The back to back. Come on now. Send me some good vibes. But yeah, just to touch on this again, in case you guys missed it. If you're on the top 500 teams, your team probably looks pretty similar to a lot of other teams. So it's a little bit harder than you would think. Like, I would not say there's a good correlation between being on the top 500 teams and winning the finals. I would rather actually have second place teams that are healthy than first place teams. Because again, inherently, it means a second place team has some guys that did not score as many points in the regular season. And as long as they still have ceilings in them, they're going to be low on leverage on the field. This team's pretty fun. The second team I drafted with it looks like I named it Bill Super with Dolphins Mini. It's got Allen and Tua, so not more you can ask for at quarterback. And then Singletary, White, Pierce, Hines. So got the Singletary, Hines late stack. Robinson, TDP, again, he might be relevant here soon. And Dearness Johnson could always become relevant. Wide receiver, feeling pretty strong with Diggs, Waddle, Davis, Smith, and these guys. And then Kittle, Knox, fine at tight end. Looks like I just named this one Cup, Samuel, Brown, Williams because I was excited to get Cup, Debo, AJ Brown, and Mike Williams together. And this is going to allow me to advance a Mike Williams where hey, a Mike Williams, a Gabe Davis, a Mike Evans, these guys who get targets down the field, score touchdowns. They're exciting to get into the playoff groups. Gabe Davis is a guy I drafted a ton of. He's going to be, not high advance rate, not low advance rate, just because so many players got injured around him. You can see I did have an Uzuma on this team. Also Zach Wilson, but it's got Justin Fields and Daniel Jones, who are 2 fun guys there. What are your thoughts on Njoku with Watson down the stretch? One of my most owned guys. Yeah, I have no idea about Watson and how it's going to shake out. I'm more in the let's see it. This is actually the only Watson team I drafted out of hundreds of teams on purpose, I think, and I don't even think it's a great stack. It's a David Bell and DPJ stack. I think I wanted Njoku but got sniped. But it has Allen, so that's what allowed it to get this far. So good for the playoffs. Am I rooting for Deshaun Watson? No. This next one's pretty fun. A Chiefs, Titans, Bills. So, Saquon, who's going to be solid advance rate. Ramondre, league winner. I'd rather have Ramondre than Josh Jacobs, and I think Ramondre will have a better playoffs. James White, not good. He's retired, but Robinson, Mostert, Spiller, Johnson, maybe. It's pretty much a Saquon and Stevenson lineup. And who, by the way, like people say, hey, it's lucky you won. I had 25% Stevenson as a rookie. So was it lucky or was that just good drafting? And then it's got Diggs and Davis, so 2 Bills pieces, 3 Chiefs pieces, and Kelsey, MBS, and Juju, Amon-Ra, a solid one off, and then Burks and Woods for the Titans stack. So excited about that one. One of my higher scoring ones. I don't know. On mobile, it shows you your. Oh, here's my points up here. Let's look at one of the last, some of the later teams I drafted. I'm not going to look at every team unless you guys want me to. I don't know. I'll talk about anything best ball. Didn't really have a plan for the stream, just kind of impromptu did it. But this one is a Hurts Mac Jones team. So, hey, maybe Mac Jones has the playoff run of his life. The Patriots have been passing more. He's stacked with Stevenson. Montgomery, not going to be high advance rate. Solid piece to have. This is what, like, really solid 0 RB core. Feel real good about every running back, honestly, on this list. Like, yeah, Ken Walker's going to be high owned, but Singletary maybe not as much. Montgomery maybe not as much. Hilliard definitely not as much. Sanders decently. But, you know, in the weeks that Hurts doesn't do it, maybe I can get a Mac Jones week. Wide receiver, Diggs, and I reached for A.J. Brown in the second here to go with Hurts because if you remember at the end of the year, A.J. Brown was going like late second, early third. And so I stacked Diggs with Brown knowing that stack was rare. And that's where Hurts lined up in the 5th round, where earlier you could get Hurts late 6th, and at this point he was late 5th. And so you weren't getting Hurts and A.J. Brown unless you were either really reach on Hurts or you did what I did and take A.J. Brown in the second. And then love this wide receiver crew other than obviously Michael Thomas out for the year. And Russell Gage is a question mark, but Diggs, A.J. Brown, Mike Williams, and Marquise for the playoffs seems solid with a really nutted tight end group too, especially if Higbee produces. Who are the players you wish you had more of? Well, Craig, I think that depends. Like, you know, I think is it Josh Jacobs some guy I wish I had more of? Yes and no. Again, I don't think Jacobs is going to have the best playoff run, but you know, in short, I want the guys who are going to score a lot of points and not high owned by the field. So I like someone I really like that I have a lot of is Hollywood and Mike Williams and Gabe Davis. These are guys who are like not crazily high owned, but have ceiling. I need to think more. Like this question is just so deep. It's not so easy to just say like, oh, I wish I had more Justin Jefferson. Like, yeah, sure. I went Chase a lot over Jefferson. I don't think that was necessarily wrong. Obviously, it was high variance, and Chase got hurt after having a couple beast weeks. But I wish I would rather have a Chase playoff team than a Justin Jefferson playoff team because they have equal ceilings, and or I would say Chase with Burrow actually has a higher ceiling, in my opinion, than JJ in one individual game. But, like it's harder to get a Chase team to the playoffs. So, like, obviously I want as many teams to the playoffs. Harbors, I touched on this earlier by on BBM3, 20 out of 150, which so many things goes into advance rates. Like, my teams are all extremely unique. I think they're advancing. Let's take a look at the team that Peter and I did. 1527, so solid score here. Hurts and Fields. Can't ask for more at quarterback. And then it's got a Kareem Hunt, Cook, Carter, Mostert, Jamal, Eno, Tristan Ebner, whoever Peter talked us on to. So, like, if this team can hit ceilings, these guys are not going to be super high owned. Hunt, Cook, Carter, we could get injuries to Chubb. We could get injuries to all these guys. Bildo, I don't know the exact math, but I would rather have one Chase team than 2 Justin Jefferson teams. Because I think Chase is going to be half owned in the playoffs compared to Justin Jefferson? No, I think it's going to be way less than half. Like it might be they might be like 10% compared to like Justin Jefferson 90, you know? Yeah, I've seen other people say that Hopkins is a low. I think Hopkins is going to be a high advance rate player, in my opinion. Um, and he actually is the guy I wish I had more of because I took a lot of Godwin. And I think on BBM3, I think I looked the other day, I'm 7%, so I'm fine on Hopkins. But I was worried the age cliff would happen, but I also knew the steroid pop was like maybe strong signal. Like I said this many times on stream. I was like, maybe it's good news that this guy got hit by steroids. We know he's trying to do something to turn back time. And so I think, especially on PPR, I don't know about half point PPR, but especially PPR, I think Hopkins will be high advance rate. Because think of the guys going around him at wide receiver, especially. You know, like Hopkins should have been in that range where it was like just where like wide receivers started to get gross. So like before Kirk, before Metcalf, that's where he should have been drafted. But he's a guy I wish I took a lot more of. This team is fun. So this is a Justin Jefferson team, but I think it's very unique. It like hit the 3 mid-range quarterbacks, which are killing it. You expect a 20-point floor from Cousins, Tua, and Fields, and you expect that they can hit 30, 40 points in Fields' case ceilings. And then it has Chubb, who should be high owned in the playoffs, but then Elliott, who will be pretty low owned in the playoffs and is turning it on. So excited to have him. Sanders, who should be whatever. Damian, who should be low owned. And I still think the Patriots want Damian to be a thing. Like all these Ramondre weeks, Damian keeps on getting hurt like first snap of the game or he's out for the week. So if Damian's back and the Patriots need to win, or if they're like out of the playoffs and they have no incentive to run out Ramondre, then Damian could definitely hit late. And then White, who obviously you feel good about at this point in the year. And then only drafted 6 wide receivers, 2 of which I knew, and Hopkins and Williams would not be playing for most of the year, or at least 6 weeks. But the 4 wide receivers I do have, or really 3, in Jefferson, Hill, and Monroe are smashes. Elijah Moore was regretting on this team. Now is looking okay. Hopkins, obviously a smash. And then should be hopefully getting back Jameson Williams soon. And then went 4 tight end here. Obviously, Brevin Jordan I wish I took a different tight end. Someone asked me on Twitter when I posted this team, this is my highest scoring team at 1,600. They asked me, would I rather which wide receiver would I have taken instead of Brevin Jordan? And I answered I would have taken another tight end or another running back. And I don't think 4 tight end is great for advance rate purposes, but I do like 4 tight end for playoff group purposes, where it's like if Njoku puts up a 5 and Hill puts up 5 and Logan Thomas gives me my 15 that week, that's pretty big on the group. That could maybe help me advance where every point matters. Rip, bro. Rip, sorry. That's me, but with Logan Thomas and Conklin and it's funny who I took. Conklin's not a guy I took as much on half point PPR. Because he was usually a 19th, 20th round pick on PPR, and that's something I don't do enough, and neither does the field, where we don't take players we would take in the 19th, 20th rounds on a 20 round website in the 18th round, which we should, for sure. Yeah, and I said every year people are like, late round tight end is going to be my bread and butter this year. No, I will never be under the field on a Kelsey Andrews type. Now, also, it's killing me with Waller and Kittle to a lesser extent. This team I drafted with my mates from college. It is strong at running back, but it's just rocking Derek Carr. So I really like this team because it's pretty funny. going to make the playoffs. Obviously, has 200-point lead. So we got Allen and Cousins. So I knowingly took a 0 at quarterback because these guys shared a week 7 bye. But, I figured, hey, if the team's good enough, and this is how it usually shakes out on half-point PPR, is like a large portion of the years you play, a lot of the field's going to get injured. The teams that are healthy are going to like really lap people, and you're going to see gaps like we just saw. Like I have how do I see that again? Yeah, I have a 200-point lead in advancing, and I took a 0 at quarterback 1 week. That's because, and a Cousins Allen pairing is going to be very unique. Where if like, whatever, Allen gets hurt 1 week, or just Cousins goes nuclear and Allen does whatever, maybe you sneak in a low on Allen, or you sneak in a low on Cousins. Running back, obviously, Josh Jacobs allowed me to advance a subpar group where about to get J.K. Dobbins back, so that feels good. Dalvin Cook, not going to be a high advance rate player, but still really high on like expected fantasy points. So he should regress, positive regression coming. Mostert, probably solidly the 2, but still has elite speed. And then Hilliard, talked about him a bunch already, but solid back up there who can also give spike weeks. Wide receiver group is whatever, but we got Watson in there. We got Dubs, who's about to be back. Gage might return. Woods is brutal, but he's in there. Osborne, brutal, but he's playing. I don't think Renfro's playing. Really goes through Gabe and Amon-Ra. And then tight end, it's got Kelsey, it's got Hill, and then it's got the lesser known Taysom Hill that people don't talk about. And might, if I'm really lucky, Jeff Driscoll sees the field this year, because Jeff Driscoll is like the quarterback 3 for Houston. So if Kyle Allen gets benched or hurt, maybe Jeff Driscoll, who I think I checked and like only 8 psychos drafted Jeff Driscoll with me, and those teams probably didn't make the playoffs. But hey, if Jeff Driscoll is playing quarterback at the tight end position, he's the Taysom Hill thesis, but no one's on him. Let's check in on the David Kitchen teams. David Kitchen and me killing this one. Soccer Dave, hit him up. Tell him he's a best ball thought leader. And the other team we drafted is almost in. I'll take a look at that one after. So this one is a Allen, Winston. Obviously, all these teams are on stream if you want to go look back at them. It's under my live videos, not my video section. There's a live section on YouTube because most of my videos are streams. Running back, smashed it out of the park, except for Trey Sermon, which was Dave's pick, with Walker, Gibson, and really it's a 3 running back team right now, but the 3 are good at least. Wide receiver, pretty solid with Diggs, McLaurin, Ayuk, Kirk, Parker, Watson again, Davis, Watkins, Shakir, and then Kittle, Irv. Oh, I wanted to look at this team because I noticed that, how do I add this in? I have to stop sharing to show this, but I noticed Watson was my last wide receiver picked on that last team. So yeah, Christian Watson went in the 14th round. Let me name some of the wide receivers that went in the 14th and 15th round with him. That includes people like Van Jefferson, Nico Collins, Wandale, who was like okay, but not half-point PPR. KJ Hamler, hurt and terrible. Sammy Watkins, fat. Jarvis Landry, not good. Kendrick Bourne, bad. Zay Jones, turning on. Robbie Anderson, terrible. Christian Watson was like, oh, and the other names going in these rounds are like either tight ends or wasteland picks. If you go to Underdog Twitter, they tweet out a list of the top 500 teams scores, but they don't show you the teams. But come the playoff rounds, Hayden Winks will put out a ownership percentage on the advance rates. I don't think they're allowed to just like post your team though, so that's why they don't do that. Let's find this other David Kitchen team. And you could see like some of these teams are in 3rd, but okay, so this team's alive. But it's hard. It's like I got to close 42, a little bit over 42 half-point PPR points in 2 weeks. That's not easy thing to close. This team is a tragedy. It's only 24 points out from advancing, but look at this roster. It's gotten no points from quarterback since like week 3 and is still almost advancing just because it's so, it's got solid tight ends. It's got a killer wide receiver, like the best wide receiver group you could ask for. And it has Eckler, Hunt, Pierce, like solid running backs. But let's see this other David Kitchen team. So we are 5 points out from advancing. Oh, come on. And this is a Mahomes Pickett team with Connor, who's really turning it on now, Montgomery, and then Edwards, who played, I think, at least, and James Cook, who is playing at least, and Ronald Jones, who might be playing. And it's got Debo, Amon-Ra, Sky, Kirk, Claypool, Pierce, Pickens, Samuel, Belis, and then Kelsey and Freiermuth. So pretty solid team. It's really like a 4 running back team with not that much star power, but I think we're gonna make it over. Let's look at that guy over Tony. Let's see. Tony's got a Lamar team, pretty nutted at running back. Wide receivers are ass though, and his tight ends are ass. So it's really like, I think we'll take him down. I think our wide receivers plus Kelsey plus running backs can close that gap. Okay, what's going on here? We got people sharing teams in the chat. This is outrageous. 101 excitement player for me, Derrick Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry's not a guy I drafted a lot of. I was not that afraid of him burying me. He's old. He doesn't catch passes. I didn't think the Titans would be that good, which they are better than I thought they would be again. But again, I'm not worried about Henry. Like, sure, could he do it? Yes, he obviously can, but like his ceilings are not what they used to be. Like they're like solid when no one else is scoring points. But yeah, I'm okay. And let's the Titans schedule also I do not think is great. Is another reason why, especially like week 17 against the Cowboys, I do not want to be playing skill position players against the Cowboys. Okay, Texans is a great matchup and Chargers is a great matchup. So maybe Henry is the guy who's going to be like 50% plus owned in the finals, but then has a dud in the finals. Not going to lie, Chargers and Texans, 2 teams you can run all over. However, again, I'm okay with trying to, like, I didn't have Kupp or Andrews, 2 50% plus owned guys in the finals. I'm okay trying to just get lucky and not have a Henry team in my group, or just have my whole team be good enough that we can beat Henry's 30 burger. Definitely, yeah. But hey, week 17 are the matchups I mostly care about. All right, guys, let me know here what if you want to see any of these other teams. We got some stream teams with Siege. We got one. This one's name's Hertz Bully tight end. We got one with Peter Jennings. Let's look at that one. Peter, best ball legend. This one is definitely going to make the playoffs. It's a Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Goff team with Etienne, Mitchell, Cook, Singletary, and Herbert. And then it's got Tyreek Waddle, the Dolphin stack, with Cooks, Hopkins, Palmer. I think we debated Metcalf or Cooks, and I let Peter have Cooks. Wish we took Metcalf. But other than that, really solid wide receivers to close it out, and Kelsey and Hawkinson. Some other stream teams here. This one is a solo Josh Allen team, which is in a playoff battle, a rare league where like a bunch of teams are still alive. But it's just got Josh Allen at quarterback, and then it's got Swift, Pollard, Henderson, Herbert, TDP, and Chris Evans. Man, Chris Evans is a guy who I draft. Like the difference between drafting like a Chris Evans and a Jeff Wilson is like everything for advancing and making the playoffs. Like if I can turn all these like TDPs, Chris Evans, etc., into Jeff Wilson's, who was on my winning team last year, I should have been taking more. Then we would be killing it. And then it's got Diggs, Davis, Amon-Ra, Godwin, London, Burks, Sky Moore, and Wandale with Freiermuth, Tunyon, and Hurst. So this is an exciting team if it can hold off the playoff push from the other teams, especially with Swift, who Swift can still put together a stretch of 30-point run games here to close it out. And Herbert should be back healthy. TDP might see the field. Henderson might see the field. Okay, let's see here. Which site do you think was the sharpest? I don't know, man. Like that, a lot goes into that. Like maybe Underdog, but again, I don't think drafting with sharp people is necessarily a bad thing. That's not happening, dude. I don't think you're going to close 100 points in 2 weeks. That's just that's asking a lot. Let's see the Lamar Hyperfragile. Oh, right here. Lamar 4 running back. Oh, these 4 running backs are nice. This team is no lock to make it. It is up 30, but Chef Scott's got to survive it too. So it's just a Lamar team with Trey Lance out for the year. And then it's got Saquon, Chubb, Etienne, and Ramondre. Can't ask for a better group of 4. Then some hits, some misses at wide receiver. It's got JJ Anchor with Smith, Moore, who's at least producing now, Boyd, Dotson, who's on the field at least, Anderson, who's pretty much a 0, Watkins, who's pretty much a 0, and then Collins and McKenzie, who could be big, and then Knox and Evan Engram are the 2 tight ends, unless Irv comes back. And then Harbs is asking, how's your big dog teams? I'll take a look at that next. Player to most likely repeat from your winning roster? It's hard to say, man. Obviously, like a cheaper guy like Jeff Wilson, it's easier for. But really depends on who has big playoff weeks. Like Josh Allen is pretty likely. Gabe wasn't on my winning team. Justin Fields was on my winning team, so I got that out too. Yeah, it was a Cole Beasley Josh stack. I took Cole Beasley trying to set up the stack for Davis. So I don't know. It could be a Amon-Ra, Definitely not going to be Penny, but Walker is essentially the same thesis. Let's take a look at the big dog teams. At one point in the season, I was advancing all but one, I think. Now it looks like I'd be lucky if I get half of them advanced. They released this contest super late. Like, I really hope they don't do this next year, where I asked Underdog all year, I was like, can we have the high stakes? And they didn't release this until way late. So I only got 8 down. But let's take a look at the 1 seed, which should advance. Again, only need to be top 4 to advance. So this is a Allen Lawrence team with Barkley, Singletary, Pierce, Carter, Robinson, and pretty much 0. And then Gabe, Kirk, Olave, Gallup, Zay, Marvin's out there. Gage could play. And then Andrews and Kittle. So 2 solid tight ends. This team is also advancing, but is going to be a fight between probably these 3 teams. And so this one is a Lamar, Marcus Mariota team with, I had a lot of penny on Underdog. With White, Henderson, Gainwell, Carter, TDP, Chris Evans. God damn, this TDP Chris Evans pairing is something I keep seeing from me. It's like hurting my soul. And then nutted at wide receiver with JJ, AJ Brown, London, Ayuk, Olave, Paris Campbell, Sammy Watkins, and then Mark Andrews again, and Darren Waller if he comes back. This team is it's got a shot to advance. It's an Allen Winston team with Eckler and Kamara and Hunt and Gainwell. And then it's got Gabe Davis, Godwin, Moore, Devonta Smith, Russell Gage, Michael Gallup, Isaiah McKenzie, Curtis Samuel, Marcus Galloway, and then Knox and Njoku and Taysom Hill. And then the last team here is definitely in the hunt here and maybe these other teams are too by points. I don't know. Rough at quarterback. At least it's got Trevor. And then these 2 guys are out. These 2 guys don't play. So rough team. It's got Gibson and White at running back. with okay group of wide receivers. Drafted a lot of Mark Andrews in the big dog. Yeah, Hendo was a guy I drafted a ton of. He's not. Let's see what the gaps are here. This team is dead. This team is probably dead. Let's look at this one. This team is dead. This team is probably dead, but it has... Nope, it's dead because Jameis Winston's not going to play this week. So, let's see here. Anything else to look at? The last fantasy thing for me is I made the playoffs in 3 of my main event teams. Let's take a look at those real quick. I want to be careful I don't give away my bids because some of these teams are rough. I'll just show you my one team that made a 1 seed because it has no bids. So this team won the 1 seed, which means it qualifies for the $1 million sprint, aka weeks 15 through 17. Whoever scores the most will make $1 million totaling the score. Now, this team drafted Javonte Williams and Michael Thomas, so it survived those injuries. And it's a Kelsey team. It's not that great, but I would say the Godwin, Tom Brady stack is going to be really low owned. I'm debating picking up Jordan Love, and obviously, I'm going to make some waiver claims, but I might pick up Jordan Love here just in case. I only have $7 of fab, which is how you pick up free agents. But yeah, I mean, look at the standings here. Like, this team is one of the worst teams to win it. 1651, so not even close to the highest score. And it was like a crazy sweat. Like, if you guys remember 2 weeks ago, the Chargers and the Chiefs played, and I was down like 60 points with only Josh Palmer and Kelsey to play. And I was like, oh, okay. Because if I didn't win the 1 seed, I'm like not making the playoffs even in this group. And then I benched Treylon Burks last week and the week before. I don't know if Judy's playing. I had to play Jarvis Landry last week or 2 weeks ago when he scored a touchdown. So this is a fun one. Fuck, I'll show you this team too, which is I misread. Scroll real quick on the waiver claim, but I misread I wasn't thinking about the rules correctly, and I thought that I was just like, okay, top 2 record teams, top 2 points scored. I wasn't thinking about what happens when these things overlap. So I think I even gave up on this team and maybe set a lineup Sunday morning. But it again, not trying to show my waivers. It's 6-5 and somehow found fuck it, this team sucks. But it somehow snuck in on second best record because this guy's getting in on points scored. And so at 1468 points, it is the second lowest scoring team in the league, but got the third best record. So just got really lucky on this team. Obviously, the points, great fantasy defense by me. Just didn't allow people to score. But the team is actually one of the ones I'd be more excited about if it can make the sprint, which would require it to win this week and next week, because it has Kamara and Swift at running back, which most of my teams are dying for running back points. And then it's got Lamar and Andrews, which is going to be probably a low-owned stack. And then it has wide receivers, which include Odell maybe. DJ Moore will be in there. Probably going to drop Pierce, but I don't know. And then it's got Juju and MVS, which obviously can't hit a ceiling. And I'll show you my last team. This team is definitely rough, where, again, I miscalculated this. I thought this team was dead if it didn't, but it scored a shitload of points. It's a Tyreek, AJ Brown team with Cooper Kupp and Jerry Jeudy and Marquise Brown. But my running back is currently Jeff Wilson, $18 of fab. And then if I can't get the running back I want off of waivers, I guess Matt Breida is my running back 2 in a must-win spot. But if I can get one of these waiver guys, I'm going to start him over Matt Breida. Have to start Marcus Mariota at quarterback with Murray on bye. And like Julio and Greg Dulcich are in my guys. What do you guys think about my flex here? The options are between Julio, Dulcich, Robert Woods, who I got on waivers, Taysom Hill, and Jerry Jeudy. So if Jeudy is healthy, I will play him. I kind of like playing Julio because if we get to the Monday night game against this team, I'm playing this team here, which is like stacked with good running backs, but not, like my wide receivers are better. So like if Tyreek and AJ Brown can put up like 80, then I'm just fine. But I kind of like playing Julio because if we get to the Monday night game and I only need like 5 points to win, I can play Julio. If we get there and I'm down like 30, then I can play Taysom Hill and hope that Taysom Hill has a nuclear game. So let me know what you guys would put in the flex here. Would you secure Robert Woods against the Eagles? Not the best matchup. Or would you but like Robert Woods is never giving you 20, probably, right? You're hoping for 10. So like, do you take Robert Woods guaranteed 10 for Julio, who can still hit 10, and then, or and you have the optionality, you have the info and the optionality of a Taysom. When look at the team we have to beat, by the way. We have to beat this Lamar Andrews team that also has like every good running back in the league. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre, Aaron Jones, also has Amon-Ra, also has Terry. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I just think that like looking at the team I need to beat, I need the Julio Taysom optionality. And like, I don't know who I most want on waivers. Like I know Zonathan Knight's an option. I know the fucking the pit guys are no longer really an option, but the like TDP's an option. Like I don't even know who I want to put in here. But yeah, this like I pretty much need like, I don't know. I need a fucking miracle because having to start Broncos guys is death. I mean, I need the Brett Maher like 30-point game again. Feel good about my defense and kicker. I'll say that. Let's see some poker eye questions here. More poker in 2023. I'll definitely be playing the World Series again. Come to Vegas for the WPT. I almost went down to Hollywood, but my cousin was in town. I don't think I can swing that. That's a little too soon. And I spent a lot of time in Vegas this year, guys. Okay, Harbs, I get it, man, but it's like I picked up Woods for an emergency spot start. And it's like, dude, did Mitchell really have to get hurt last week? Because I could have started Wilson and Mitchell and fucking Damien Harris got hurt. Like I would have at least felt good about that. Like, okay, whatever. Give me Mitchell's maybe upside. But let me know what you guys would do in the YouTube comments. I'm going to flip-flop on this Julio. Like, if Judy's in, I'll start Jeudy over Dulcich, I think. But if he's not in, then I'm rolling with Dulcich, and I think I'm rolling with Julio. With the optionality to play Hill if we're down 20 or more. That's what I'm thinking. Really hope this team can make the finals, because if it can make the sprint and it gets Cup back, then, like whatever, Jeff Wilson and gang, I don't really fucking care who my RB2 is. Like, and I need to switch out these RB2s. Let's look at waivers together, guys. And if you're in my league, in this league against me, I think Twitter law or fantasy law is you must look away. So Let me know what you guys are liking to see on waivers here. These are the guys out here sorted by who scored the most last week. This is the most points this season, and this is the highest owned guys. And if it has this like drop thing, you can't pick them up. So yeah, rough crew. Could have been me if I was over there. Good luck him. Let me know, guys. What's your waiver priority? Yeah, I can zoom in. Sorry. I guess like Amir Abdullah saw 3 targets last week. Like, it is bottom of the barrel. And why did we have to play like a fucking stacked, like the 1 seed, you know? Like, fucking Christ. Like, this team is a superstar team. It's like top in the tournament. And I like wasted all my fab because I thought I wasn't going to make the playoffs. It's a disaster. A lot of lessons there. So, all right, guys, that is it for today's best ball talk. Good luck to you. Good luck to me, mostly, in these last 2 weeks. What would you do, Preston? Don't keep us waiting. Good luck to us, and can't wait for the playoffs. Give me a week 13 in the chat. My favorite thing to do in a group message with my lads. Week 13. I do this every week. And I'll be back to stream the playoff contest once those drop. And I can't wait for this fucking best ball sweats. Hey, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Gonna be back later tonight, actually, for week 13 picks against the spread. Ooh, another Liam. Welcome, friend. Yeah, but I'm not playing that. Like, I'm not. I think it's only like 5K or something. Okay, it's 15K. 15K to first. I'm waiting for them to drop the gauntlet, the $1 million to first or whatever. Yes, we'll be back with Bert. My picks are rough against the spread. I'm down like infinite units. So come opposition bet me later tonight. Damn, bro. I made money in the gauntlet because I drafted Bills on every team. It was so crazy. Like, I know I had just an insane year, but if the Bills beat the Chiefs, I maybe win another like 750K or something, because like I would have had all these gauntlet teams and I would have had the leading team in the FFPC playoff challenge. No, dude, I'm not fucking around with JD. Did we ever get the answer to this? What would you do, Preston? Jesus Christ, man, making me wait for it. I'm gonna toggle light mode until you tell us. No, I'm just kidding. That's awful. Wow, look at this. All right, guys. That's it. The second sex bots of the stream is too much. Have a great. You are a sick mind. Have a great day, guys. I'll be back. I think at 7:30 to do. This guy's cracking me up, Preston. Jesus Christ. Just gave you an hour and a half stream for free. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. I'll be back at 7:30.